Kakadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Zevachim, Daf Yomi, Daf Tzadikei Amud Aleph 95A1. Says the Gemara, we're by the two dots. The two dots says like this: Kli Cheres, that there was going to be mitbashel bo basar chatat, right? And it came outside, and then it became tameh, right? Outside of the klaim, what you have to do is you make a hole, and once you make a hole, you bring it back into the makom kadosh. Says the Gemara, remember, because once it became tameh outside, I can't bring it inside. Right? That's why you have to make a hole. Once you make a hole, there's no problem. So says the Gemara, why? Because it's a kli, and this is not a kli. Meaning, the second that you came, you broke it. You made a hole. It's not a kli, and therefore, since you made a hole, it's fine. So he says, no, nikav beshoresh katan. You made a small hole, and since you made a small hole, right, you could still technically use it. So it got rid of the tum'ah, but you're still able to come, and you're still able to wash it, right, inside of the Bet HaMikdash. What about now Kli Nechoshet? Pochato. Kli Nechoshet, we said that it's not just enough to make a small, you have to make a bigger hole. So he says, Vala Klivu. He says, give me now 1 second. The second that you come and you make a hole, Kamarnu, it's not a Kli anymore. So what does it help now to bring it inside of the Bet HaMikdash? To wash it. Again, it's not a Kli. So he says, Deratzif Martzif. What does that mean? After after you broke it, you come and you start banging it until it's mitchaber again. And therefore, anytime, so then it becomes a kli again. Once it becomes a kli again, now you could do the medikan shtifa inside the Bet HaMikdash, but you already got rid of the tum'ah. But the second that you broke it, you got rid of the tum'ah. So Amar Reshaki says Reshakish, me'il. What about now the me'il of a kohen gadol? That now you've got blood of a dam chatat and it comes outside of the azaram and nitma. Right, becomes tameh. Machniso, you bring it back inside. Which means what you do is you bring it inside of the Bet HaMikdash each time with less than 3 by 3 fingers. And then you're going to come and you're going to wash it. Right? He says, Mishum, because Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, lo yikareya. What does it mean, lo yikareya? The Torah says by the me'il, you're not allowed to tear it. Meaning you have an isur to tear the Kohen Gadol's clothing. So since you have an isur to tear the Kohen Gadol's clothing, we don't want you to come and start tearing the clothing in order to get out of this problem. So motiv Rav Ada Barava, so Rav Ada Barava comes and he asks, Havin Varakim, we're talking about now badim which are av or rach, whether they're thick or they're going to be soft. And by mishum shalosh al shalosh, they don't become tameh in the shiur of 3 etzbaot by 3 etzbaot, right, like a regular beged, but rather it's much more than that, right? So he says it's 3 tvachim by 3 tvachim instead of 3. Remember, every etzba is 2 centimeters. Every tefach is 8 centimeters. So instead of doing 2 by 2s, right, 2 by 2 by 2, which is 2 centimeters, right, which is 3 etzbaot square, you're talking about 3 tefachim. It's a huge difference, right? We're talking about times 3, right? Times 4, sorry, right? 4 times the amount. Okay, so he says, right, as follows. So he says, Agav avihen chashive. He says, no, this chaticha is only going to be chashuv, right? Only when it's got a shimush with a big beged. But by itself, each one on its own is not going to be chashuv. So says the Gemara, Vahabai shivat samamanim. He says, 1 second, to do the kibbutz of the dam chatat, you have to use the 7 samamanim in order to clean it, just like you find out about the kitmeh of dam anida. Once upon a time, when you had a ketem of dam nida, to find out if it's a ketem or not, you would wash it with 7 types of clothing. It is not clothing, sorry, like types of detergents, in order to find out if yes or not, if it goes away or not. The problem is we already lost these 7, so therefore it doesn't help, right? That means nowadays we don't have it. Even Rashi says, I don't know which one, some of them are. So if Rashi himself says already we don't know what some of them are, that's it. Like we lost this. Because imagine, a person would be able to wash it, and you would be able to know if it's dam nida or if it's outside blood. Imagine right now you would be able to do that, right? Imagine you've got a stain, and you have to find out what it is. You come, you wash it with a certain thing, boom, you find out, is this nida blood or is this a thing? So obviously, right? Obviously, he says over here, right, that it's going to be completely different. Says Rav Nachman Amar Rabba Baravua, dam chatat. He says, when we're talking about right now the dam chatat umaron negaim sechin shavat samamanim, you need the 7 samanim. The time we learned, el Hashem achnisim meraglaim hamikdash. You're not allowed to bring in meraglaim, and one of those simanim is urine. Urine was used in order to come and to wash. Now you're not allowed to bring urine into the Bet HaMikdash. It's a disgrace. So how could it be? So it says, which one? No. Levuna, frankincense. V'chitem, says the Gemara Tzadikei Amud Bet, right? He says 95b. V'chitem the mivla, right? Lehu b'chalash. Fine. So just put it with other simanim. Meaning you're just going to put it with the other samamanim. Just put it with the other ones, right? Meaning urine by itself is disgraceful, but maybe if you mix it with something else and now you bring it inside, maybe now it's going to be okay. So he says, and just do everything in once. But now we learned, you have to do it dafka in a specific order. Meaning these 7 had to be done in specific order. And if you didn't do it doesn't help. If you're going to tell me that you're going to do it one on the samanim, you have to be mekaskes, right, in the 3 times in one. So he comes and he says like this. He says, right, if you're going to come and you're going to be mishafshef, we already learned this before, right? So he says kiskese. We said with this, right? So he says, right, shalosh pamim b'chol echad v'echad tanam. We already learned it. So he says, ela demivla lehu berok tafel. He says you're going to mix the meraglaim with rok tafel, with rok that does not have any tam. Tamar shakish, but says that shakish, rok tafel you have to put with every single one of the samanim. Meaning, rok tafel means that you didn't taste anything. So if you didn't taste anything, that saliva that you have is called rok tafel. It's got no taste. So you have to mix that rok tafel with each one of the 7 savamanim in order to come and to mix it up. So therefore, since like that, there's no isur of bringing the meraglaim into the Bet HaMikdash, into the Azara, because it's not nikar that it's meraglaim by itself, it's meraglaim with the rok tafel. So once it's with something else, it's like, it's not anymore like the meraglaim anymore by itself. Okay? Says the Mishnah. Echad shebishel bo, right? Ve'echad she'ira letocho roteach. Whether you got a kli that they come and they cooked the basar of the korban, or one which is basically that they put in marak roteach, right? Echad kochei kadashim, whether we're talking about kochei kadashim or echad kadashim kalim, teunim merika u'shtifa. You need merika and shtifa. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says kadashim kalim and teunin merika u'shtifa. They do not need merika and shtifa. Says the Gemara. That's only if we actually cooked in it. How do you know that if you're going to pour into it roteach? How do you know that the same halacha would apply? So Talmud Lomar, it says asher, right? We're talking about tevushalbo yishaver. What does that mean here? We're teaching you anything which is absorbed in the basar of the chatat has to be broken, even though it wasn't actually cooked in that kli. Meaning, even though it wasn't cooked in that utensil, the fact that it's going to be in this utensil, you have to come and you have to break that utensil. So by Rami Barachama comes and he asks the following question: Tela'oba vira tanur. If right now you're going to be toleh, right, the basar on a shipud, on a skewer in the middle of a tanur, what's halacha? Well, you have to break the entire tanur. So imagine I took the chatat, I put it in the oven. So now you have to destroy the entire oven because we just said anything that you cook this chatat is a problem. So what, you have to break the oven as well? So he says, "Abishul bilua udekapi rachmana or dilma bishul belo bilua." Is it that the Torah is only going to be makpid, right, to break the kli only if you have bishul, and through the bishul you have that it's nivla, or even if it's going to be bishul without being nivla? Meaning the difference between a pot and an oven is that the pot, it absorbs in the walls of the pot the food. The oven, it's evaporated. It's not actually absorbed into the walls. So Amar Rava comes and he says, Tashema, we wanted to come and bring a proof. Whether we're talking about right now, Shabishelbo, or he poured a boiling hot water into it, it's the same halacha. Meaning, even though if it wasn't mamash really cooked. So says the Gemara, Bilua bishul, belo bishul lo kami baelan. For sure, if we're talking about that it was absorbed without bishul, that's not a question. Because why you have to break it? Ki kami baelan, when do we have to do it? Bishul belo bilua. If you cooked it without being absorbed, what is the halacha? So Tashema, we're going to try to bring a proof. Right? He says, Tanur shel migdash shel matechet. Do you know that the tanur in the Bet HaMikdash was made out of matechet? Right? Not like the majority of the other tanurim, which are made out of cheres. Right? So he says, so because of that, I want to say that why was it made in such a fashion? Because if not, you would have to come, right, and break it every single time on the basar chatat. Now, v'isal kadaita. Now, if you're going to tell me bishul below bilua lo kapi, that we're not going to be makpid on bishul without bilua, so just make it of cheres. Meaning, why do you have to make it out of matechet? Just make it out of cheres, and there's no problem. So he says, no, Kevin the ika menachot, the fact that you have the leftovers of the menachot, of the flour offerings, tafiatam betanur, that you do bake them, vika bishul bilua, there is bishul and bilua, right? He says, in such a case, he says, because they used to put it on against the walls of the oven. You remember the ways that they used to do the breads and all these things, they used to actually put it on the wall, not in the fire. They would put it on the wall, meaning, you have the wall, they would actually slap it against the wall, right? And they would actually use it on the walls, right, of the thing. So avdin shamatechet. So we make it of matechet in order that we don't have a problem afterwards. That we just do mirikash shtifa. We don't have to destroy it. Okay. Hau tanura de atchu betichaya. There was a tanur that they put shuman behema on the inside of it before putting the bread. So Asra Rabba Barayila Michla Riftas. He says you're not allowed to eat it with bread. You're not allowed to eat it. Right? He says Lolam forever. Fafilu b'milcha, and even with melach it's going to be asur. Tilma'ati lemichla bekekutcha. But maybe you're going to come and you're going to eat it with cheese. This is, by the way, this is isur veter already. This is not anymore the korbanot. This is a concept of isur veter. Are you allowed to make meaty bread or milky bread? Now, again, if it's going to be a certain design, so I think the Gemara is going to mention, and it's brought down in the thing, you need like a heker. You need to be nikar. Why? Because if not, imagine right now I take bread. Bread is always parve. I'm going to take bread all of a sudden, boom, I'm going to eat it with cheese, and it's a meaty bread. Or bread is always it's a problem. So therefore, in this thing, we're going to have it. So again, it has to be a certain design. Meitvei. So we're going to speak about it. The Gemara is going to speak about it. So meitvei. So Gemara says, Meitvei, so we're going to come and we're going to ask the following question. En lashineta isa bechalav. You're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to be lash the isa bechalav. Vim lash, kol apat kula asura, the entire thing is asur. Why mineregel avera? Kayotze bo, so too en tashineta tanur be'alya. Vim tash, kol apat is going to be asura, she'asik et tanur. So tiyufta derabba bar ilai, tiyufta. So you're right. It's a very, very, very good question because obviously it's going to be asur. So Amaleh Ravina Ravashi says Ravina to Ravashi. Once you have the question, why did he say the Kedirot bePesach Yishaveru? You have to break them. So he says Amarav. Rav says Rav Muki laBayisha Matechet. He says no, it was Matechet. Remember, Matechet. All you have to do is Shtifa Menika. You don't have to break it. Cheres, you have to break. You have to destroy it, right? Because once it gets absorbed, that's it. But whenever it's going to be the Matechet, you just have to kosher it the same way, and there's no problem. V'baytem, if you want, you can answer. Betanur shel cheres zeh sekom mibifnim zeh sekom mibachutz. It all depends. We're talking about really bemet a tanur of cheres. Now the question is, where's the coals, on the inside or on the outside? If it's on the inside, it stops the tanur from absorbing. If it's going to be on the outside, it does not help the tanur from absorbing, because since the heat elements are on the outside, so therefore what happens is that on the inside it's going to absorb, and therefore it does not destroy it before getting absorbed. So he says, so just do it on the inside. So he says, no, sometimes you just don't want to do it on the inside, but if not, you break the oven. So since you break the oven, you don't want to do it. And therefore, hai kubaya, these, right, the kubaya, which is basically going to be machvat, right, which they come and they it's like a pan that they come and they start doing tigun. How do you call frying? So he says esekomi bachutzu. So it's going to be on the outside and it's going to be asur. It's going to be asur. But he says kedirot shel migdash amai yishaveru. So why do you have to destroy it? Now just put it back into the oven. They don't make these types of ovens in Yerushalayim. There's a whole question why not, right? It's because basically it blackens the walls of Jerusalem. Meaning inside Jerusalem they didn't want to make these heavy duty ovens, but then it would just destroy all the walls. Remember, it was a walled city, so they didn't want to do that in order not to break the walls, right, of the city.